Hello and welcome to my ninth grade Common Core ELA standards video. I'm going to be going over ninth grade Common Core ELA standards for, California. So my name is Thomas Jelenowitz. I am teaching English 1 at El Cerrito High School in El Cerrito, California. This is my second semester teaching. My high school runs on a semester system, not a through-the-year system. Um, Technically, I know we call it a block schedule, but my high school also had a block schedule that was through the year, so I try to keep those two ideas separate in my head. Currently, I have 105 freshmen scattered, stretched across 3 periods. I have 35 per class. So yeah, that's me teaching English 1 to freshmen. Anyway, standards that I can teach, or at least these are the ones that I've been teaching, at least trying to. Again, I know I'm a first-year teacher, so there's always going to be that difficult learning curve. So writing standard number 1 is write arguments to support claims in an analysis of substantive topics or texts using valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence. And then 1D under the writing skills, is establishing and maintaining a formal style and objective tone while attending to the norms and conventions of discipline in which they are writing. And then the reading and literature standard number 1 is cite strong evidence through textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. These are the 3 that I've selected for ones that I've at least been trying to teach. I'm, again, first-year teacher, always going to be having that learning curve, and from what my teachers at my school tell me, the first 5 years are the hardest and the most, the best, I guess, or the most developmentally challenging. So the first thing I've actually done as far as helping my students write is teaching them, or at least using the ACE format, which is answer, cite, explain, or answer the prompt, cite evidence, and explain your thoughts. My school's social studies department uses this format for writing paragraphs and essays. And let me just kick it over to the next slide. It's not used by the English department, and although I've started using it just so I can dip into my kids' existing knowledge from their ethnic studies class, and so I don't have to try to teach a different format over again, it's one of those just don't reinvent the wheel kind of situations. And this has been the best and the worst thing that I've done. They are obsessed with providing quotes for the C, and I have to have whole lessons and directions explaining that, you can just paraphrase, you don't need to quote, you can summarize, you can just explain what happened, or there's other ways you can prove that you read the thing that we're supposed to be answering a question about. So again, it's one of those best and worst situations. Anyways, another thing I'm doing as far as keeping them on their, within the formal writing style, is having them do a research project. I had them pick a current event that they wanted to write about, and part of the requirements are writing the essays in APA or MLA format. And I have shown them videos and given them examples of what to do. These 2 things cover the writing 1 and writing 1D. So difficult standards for me would be the reading, I believe this is literature number 10, which is by the end of 9th grade, read and comprehend literature, including stories, dramas, poems in the grades 9 to 10, complexity band, proficiently with scaffolding as needed on the high end of the range. I am using this for 2 because I am terrible at trying to scaffold. Again, it's my first year. As I may have mentioned in class, I wasn't originally going to be teaching English, so scaffolding for English is, again, not something I'm used to, and it's not something that always comes naturally to everybody. Also, I'm not the most experienced person with poetry, although that being said, I do have a poetry screen grab we'll get in a second. And writing 9, which is reading standards for literature. Since I don't come from a literature background, I come from a copywriting background. Classical text and relating it to modern stuff is a little bit hard for me. It was always hard for me in high school. It's something I'm going to have to learn and struggle with and grow with as a professional, so that's why I've selected it as a text. As for reading activities and whatnot that we can do with my students, I have a slide set up for this, but this is one of the texts that I actually am going to be using with my students next week from when the this video is posted, which is Immigrants in Our Own Land. We're currently learning about immigration. And this is a poem. I am trying to teach poetry, even though I am not that great with it. I'm still trying to challenge myself to learn while I'm challenging my students. This is one of the things we will be reading through in class. And there are, one of the good things about Common Lit, one of the reasons why I do use it, is there are discussion questions down here at the bottom for us to go over in class. Let me blow this up a little bit. So just these are various things I like doing. I like having my kids talk about them with the groups, occasionally sharing some answers with the whole class that I'll either put on the board, either project this on the whiteboard and then just write on the whiteboard directly, just John Madden it up. And I'll also generally have them try to expand this to a full paragraph, ace paragraph answer to get them to practice their writing. So far, we haven't really moved into literary analysis because my school doesn't really want to focus on that in 9th grade. Not something I necessarily agree with, but it's just part of the deal with us and our standards or expectations. Previously, when I have tried to teach them poetry, I have used the SIFT method with my students, which is can't remember the whole thing off the top of my head. I do have a link at the end for it, and I should have put it in there. Oversight on my part. And I've also given my students the option to write poetry for their Q1 portfolio, which a few of them have done. About a quarter of them have, at least of the grades that I have gotten back so far. So even though I'm not the best at poetry, some of my students are, so there's something. So with English language development, one of the things my school district is currently doing is rolling out Orbit Notes to not only help EL students, but also to help all students in general. The reason why I've also, even though Common Lit is an online platform, I don't need to download the PDFs, is because with rolling out of Orbit Note allows students to annotate documents, which if I wasn't using my home computer, I actually could show it. But it annotates them. It lets them create their own double entry journals of words they don't know, which also means it has a built-in dictionary. And another thing I've also done is introduce my students to the idea of soapstone, which is the speaker, occasion, audience, purpose. I can't remember the S, and then the T is tone. That's another format I have my students use. And again, if I was on my work computer, I could show the graphical organizer I didn't make for them. But fortunately, I can't download the software that does this onto my work computer, and I don't think I have Zoom or at least access to it unless someone sends me a link. So the pros of Common Core, and I forgot to add the second one. Thank you, me. Anyways, it provides a tiered set of skills for students to learn that are aligned to the college and career-ready anchor skills. It also does have some overlap with the social studies department, which was thing number 2. I only know this because I am coordinating with our social studies department, because I may or may not be teaching also social studies next year. That being said, I apologize for getting to stick it in the slideshow. This is not the first time I've done that with anything, whether it be teaching or one of these classes. So 2 flaws I know of Common Core, and that I found in an article that is cited at the end, is that even though it is a tiered set of standards, it didn't come with strategies that could help teach STEM to students with disadvantages, whether they be linguistic, economic, special ed related ones, and whatnot. Also generally didn't really come with a lot of funding to help get it going. And also, from what I've read, at least in the article linked at the end, is that very few classroom teachers were consulted in the creation of Common Core, and it was generally spearheaded by a guy from Yale, and from what I've heard, at least from some people, is possibly textbook writers rather than teachers, which is a potential flaw. These are the works cited. The 12 Reasons for Common Core is the one that I got the last slide from. Book builders for the SIFT method. Again, everything is linked at the end just for the sake of keeping this from being a complete mess. And then, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, but my high school is really big on trying to get the jigsaw method. I'm struggling through it too, but again, link has been provided at the end. Thank you for watching, and see ya.